You're listening to New Churches Podcast, a production of Send Network on newchurches.com. We discuss all things church planting. If you're looking to take your next step toward multiplication, you're in the right place. Newchurches.com provides relevant and reliable resources for church planters, church multipliers, and disciple makers. Our growing library features pastors, planters, and church leaders like Ed Stetzer, David Platt, Trillia Newbell, Christine Hoover, Dahadi Lewis, Trevin Wax, and many others.
Welcome to the New Churches Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Metters, Director of Theology and Content for Send Network. And here on the New Churches Podcast, I know we're taking the summer off as we're preparing new content for the fall, but we wanted to bring you a bonus episode for the summer. We know you're just itching for more church planting content, and there is a new resource out there we want you to be aware of. There's a great new book from our friend over in the UK, Dan Steele, and the book is called Wise Church Planting, and that is such a great title, an appropriate title, and part of the mission of what we want to do here at New Churches and here also with the North American Mission Board and so many other church planting groups across North America and the world is we want to plant churches, but we want to plant them wisely. We want to plant them with faithful mission and faithful theology and going about them in the right way. And Dan Steele has written such a great book that goes through these different attributes and characteristics that could be hurdles towards wise church planting. But before we get into that, I want to introduce you to Mr. Dan Steele over from the UK. Dan, welcome to the New Churches Podcast.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's great to be with you.
It's good to see you again. We saw each other not too long ago. Was that a couple of months ago? We got to hang out here in Houston.
End of February, start of March, yeah.
Okay, man, you have a good memory. And I think you had, and maybe you were just being very kind at the time, but one of the best meals you've ever had of your life. Is that true?
That was extraordinary. That meat place, what was it called? That extraordinary meat place.
Yeah, we went to Tejas Chocolate and Barbecue here in Houston, one of the best barbecue joints.
Wow.
Yeah, we had ribs. I think we had brisket, turkey, all kinds of stuff. And probably just to rustle up some of our listeners here is that Texas does have the best barbecue. It's not Kansas City. It's not the Carolinas. Texas brisket is the king of all the meats. And as our British friend can testify, it was quite delicious or scrumptious. I don't know what word you would use to describe it.
I'd just say it was good. Yeah, I mean, I've not tried those other barbecues. If anybody wants to take me out for other, I'm happy to compare. I'll be very honest, but no, it was so good. And it's good to see you as well, Jeff.
Yeah, it's good to hang out, good to have fellowship together, talk about what the Lord's doing and how he's been at work in both of our lives and new ministries. And so, Dan, you were a pastor for many years there and you said, I'll probably butcher the name of your church, and this is why I wanted Dan to introduce himself. I can barely speak. I have a Texanified English vocabulary, and so to say some of these British words is very challenging, but I'll try. Magdalen Road.
Good job, right. Jeff. That is good. No. I mean, obviously it should be Magdalen, but for whatever reason in Oxford we say Magdalen. I was the pastor there for maybe 12 years. I'm still an elder and still involved there and still preaching. But now I work for, actually it's placed near you, Jeff, in Houston, the Lanier Theological Education Foundation. And they've got a new site just outside Oxford, a place called Yarnton Manor, yarntonmanor.org if you want to check out what we're doing. But it's a place really where we want those in ministry and indeed those within the academy to flourish as believers. So how can we help pastors, planters, ministry workers keep going, proactive and reactive care of those in ministry, as well as then those within the academy in various fields and disciplines that they might grow and flourish and represent Christ in the different places that he's called them to. Yeah, it's a privilege, massive privilege.
Yeah. It is, man. It's amazing ministry. And if you are in the Houston area or you're ever coming to Houston, you definitely want to Google Lanier Theological Library. Check the website, check the hours. And this is an amazing place to come and study. It's free. You just got to let them know you're coming and they'll buzz you in, all this kind of stuff. But they have all the resources in the world you could imagine for study, for sermons, research. Just a beautiful place to go and pray, to have some solitude. It is a wonderful spot in the Houston area that everyone should know about. And if you're over there in England, you definitely want to go check out where Dan is in Yarnton Manor. Did I say it right?
That's pretty good. Yeah, Yarnton. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Gotcha, man. Okay, and then how old is that building? I think it's like 1611. Is that
1611,
right?
Yeah. It was built by the Spencer family. So, like Lady Diana Spencer, her ancestors built it in 1611, and then there were some redevelopments along the way as well. But the current owners, so the Linear Foundation, they're doing an amazing job of bringing it back to some of its original glory, where it's been perhaps misused in the years gone by. So it's so good.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful, man. And they're part of that ministry that I think listeners should know about, especially the sending churches that are listening, and probably some of those pastors that are in sending churches. They're probably getting close to sabbaticals at times, maybe to go on a rest. And you guys have a variety of places that you have networked with or set up with, along with Practical Shepherding, to have some kind of getaway rest situations. And so they can go to Oxford or in Houston. Is that right?
Yeah. Both sites are part of the Practical Shepherding scheme, which is really cool.
Yeah, so definitely go if you're on the verge of sabbatical. Maybe this summer, probably too late, but go check it for next year and the next couple of years. Get that on your radar, and they will set you up with, I think it's near free or very, very discounted, very affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to go check those out.
Yeah, the way it works with Practical Shepherding, I think that they'll pay for 2 nights for you to come and receive some care. So do make the most of that.
Yeah, check that out. Well, Dan, we are here to talk about wise church planting. And I love the title of your book. So lay it out quickly, and we'll dive into the very details of it. So how did this book come about, and what is the book about?
There's a short story and a long story to how the book came about. The book came about really through, I think, the Lord impressing upon me a particular project that would marry my previous history in market research and being a church planter and being a pastor who sent church planters into a project talking to 80 church planters from around the globe, 27 countries, trying to speak to people for whom planting hadn't gone as they wanted. So maybe the church was just limping along and really struggling, or maybe actually they had shut down and closed. And trying to think if there were see if there were common themes and threads that united these different churches, and then what we can learn from that as we then equip and train and send future church planters. So the metaphor that I use is my well, he's just 15 now, but 14-year-old son, as he was, is a good cross-country runner. Whenever he runs in a new sort of competition or a new place, he will arrive early and he will walk around the site first. He will walk the routes to work out where the hills are, where the mud is, where the roots are, where the opportunities for overtaking, all that kind of stuff, where the hard bits are. And so in the same way for church planting, we want to go and sort of check out the route and advise where the pitfalls, if you like, are, so that people will know what's coming and perhaps be more able to deal with some of those challenges that will inevitably come. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. And so if we can give people a heads up in advance, that these things are going to be hard, these things will likely hit you in these years, then people are aware and maybe better equipped and more able to deal with some of that.
Yeah. Now let's think about the title. I love wise church planting because it makes you think about the juxtaposition of unwise church planting. Yeah. And so what are some of the things that you've learned as you kind of pulled out from all these different, talking to different pastors all around the world, some of these failed church plants, plants that didn't thrive, plants that struggled. What were some of the things you learned that this constitutes what they would say is, if you have these attributes, these things going on, this is an unwise way to go about planting. What did you discover? What are some of the key findings? Some
of the key things, which I guess for many wouldn't be a surprise, is that often within the church planting world, we can prioritize competence over character, if you put it like that. People who are good at stuff, perhaps who are gifted, and yet 60% of the issues that came up within these struggling plants came from sort of within the church, and a good number of them.
So high.
Yeah. So it's not just within the planter, so 45% within the planter, but within the church, so issues of character or disunity or lacking in all the right kind of gifts. So maybe we kind of charge out with an individual or a couple and don't have the various gifts that are needed within the kind of core team, the cost to the family, or even just the lack of patience, perhaps. So we're wanting to grow quickly, or we're wanting to justify our existence. And so we think, if I just start trusting in these things or do these things or do it this way, if I get a better website, if I get better coffee, if I get better signage, that has to work. That has to be the answer. And actually, ultimately, God says, well, hang on, I've told you how churches grow. I've told you patience and prayer and preaching and all those kinds of things. And so when you start trusting in the wrong things, then they're a danger. So 25% actually people began to sort of trust in the wrong things. So of all the issues that we spoke about or that we picked up, sort of 60% came from inside the church body, inside the church planter themselves, and then 40% came from outside the church body. So things like opposition, or perhaps even just like a naivety over the speed of growth and thinking it's going to be easy because I see, I don't know, pick your favourite church planting pastor. I see them and that their church grew to this size in 5 years and they planted 20 churches along the way. And actually in reality, it's just much harder. And so a lack of realism perhaps as to the struggle that planting can be. And it varied depending on where you were as well. You know, if you're in India, then opposition that people are facing looks like a particular thing, perhaps kind of government, state-sponsored. In the UK, opposition is sort of passive-aggressive neighbours who don't really want you in their neighbourhood doing what you're doing. And so different things look like different things in different places, but similar themes and threads throughout the world. Yeah.
It's such a helpful resource because you're getting to really hear from different planters all around the world on the front lines and kind of sitting with them. And I hope I can use this analogy and it not be too far of a stretch, but almost in a Ecclesiastes type way of, you know, you've got Solomon kind of looking back on his life and saying, this was bad, this was bad, this was vanity, this is the good way at the end. And kind of in that vein of sharing wisdom, guys can sit with all these church planners through your great work and go, hey, here's what didn't work. This was vanity. This was chasing the wind. This was unwise. And that wisdom, that wise church planting, we're getting to hear from all these different guys, the wrong way to do it. And you provide some wisdom on the right way to do it. And as you think about we have so many different people listening. We've got people listening that are interested in church planting. We've got men listening who are maybe they're in a residency, they're in the first year. We've got sending churches listening. Who would you say is the ideal audience for the book?
I'm keen that it's broad, if I'm honest. And I'll describe sort of the church planting world. So that might be your church planting pastor, as you say, who's in residency and thinking 6 months ahead, we're hoping to go live. I'd love it if they got their hands on it and thought in advance, okay, I need to be aware of these things. I'd love it if core teams read it as well, because one of the main issues was the sort of lack of the planter being kind of sufficiently gifted, if you like. But of course, nobody is. You know, none of us are the real, like the Swiss Army penknife who can do everything. We all need each other. That's how it's meant to be. That's how we're designed to be. We're all meant to be interdependent. But it could be quite hard for a planter to say, guys, I know that the Lord has gifted me in these ways, but actually, I'm going to be honest, I'm deficient in these ways, and I need people around me on the core team who can complement me, so we can be a team together and we can work well together. So, so core teams, because the sooner you can have those conversations where the pastor can say, the planter can say, I need you guys, I need help. And so core teams. And I think sending churches too. So, and funders as well. I mean, everyone. So sending churches, because how can they help create, send a healthy, fruitful church plant in a way that's going to give them the most opportunity, the biggest opportunity to thrive. And then funders as well, because like the funding question can be an issue. The lack of patience can sometimes come from expectations of funders that they want to pour money into a project, they want to back a planter and their team, and yet they expect quick results. And sometimes the ground is just hard, and ministry is hard, and there are thorns and there are thistles, and we can't be thinking, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, even sometimes it's 10 years, particularly in more deprived areas where there's just a lack of funding and money and individuals who can help support the planter and the team. So we just, So can I say everyone? Is that okay? Like everyone within the church planting world?
Absolutely.
I'd love them to read it, because I, in one sense, don't have a huge amount of wisdom, but some of these planters who have been through the mill and who have many of them, but not all, come out the other side healthy. Some are still really struggling, but those who have come out the other side, actually, it's their kind of scabbed knees wisdom of this has hurt and I've learnt, and this isn't the kind of stuff you normally find in a book, because so often in the church planting world we're optimists and kind of bouncy and excited, and what might the Lord do, and those are good things, and we ought to be, but at the same time we need to have a realism that comes from listening to those who have struggled, and often I mean, one of the things that struck me as I was working through the data is, when was the last time at a sort of church planting conference I heard somebody at the front whose plant hadn't lasted, and we love to platform the big guys, the big guns who the Lord has blessed, but in many ways they're the can I say they're the minority, that they're the ones that we look up to, but they're unusual.
It's so good. Yeah, I was just working on a text this week for a Sin Network church plant that I'm going to be serving, preaching for them this Sunday, and it's John 1, looking at Philip. And we don't know a lot about Philip. This is one text where we see the most, where he goes to find Nathanael and tells him, we found him, the one that Moses wrote about. And I thought, this is one of the few times, and there's two other times, we hear Philip do something, see him do something. And this is really encouraging, because a lot of us, we're not Peter, James, and John.
Yeah.
A lot of us are the Philips, the Nathaniels, the Bartholomews, who had ministries, who served the Lord, who went about and did things for him. And so it's so good to hear some of these lowlights too, because we are obsessed with the highlights of ministry. ESPN is not a good model for how to think about ministry, always focusing on the top 10 and sometimes the not top 10. But man, there are so many lowlights in ministry, and God's grace also shines in the lowlights and meets us down there as well. That's good. And so Dan, I wonder, for the sending churches that are listening, that they need to read this, so not just to know like what their planter will need to know, but what can they learn for themselves as a sending church? Because I know there's some issues you highlight between kind of the sending church and the plant, that there can be tensions there. Yeah. And so what encouragement would you give to sending churches?
Yeah, I mean, so a quarter of the churches I spoke to had sort of issues, described as issues of relationship with the parent church. And it goes different ways. So it can sometimes be that the planted church, or the church being planted, is a bit like the petulant teenager who thinks they've outgrown home and they want their kind of keys to the front door, and then they want to leave and they're out of there. Thank you very much. They can go on their own. And it can be for the daughter church, the plant. It needs to be a sort of humility that maybe they don't know it all, and actually maybe the parent church has got some stuff to share with them. For the parent church, it can be. Often it's just, I describe it as kind of clarity and charity. So charity, and there's a generosity in sending good people, sending resources, sending your best. But then a clarity as to what it is you are going to do and help them with. So I would urge people to put some sort of memorandum of understanding together that says, okay, for the next 5 years, we'll give you this much money each year, and the senior pastor will meet with the planter this many times, and at those meetings they will pray for each other, they will listen to a sermon or have listened to a recent sermon and give feedback, they will there'll be an opportunity for kind of mentoring and questions and coaching, and just some real clarity as to what the relationship actually looks like. Because the problem can be, often it's all about relationship. And it's all about an individual. And so what happens if the senior pastor of the kind of mother church moves on? Then there's nothing there's nothing set in stone. There's nothing kind of contractual, gently contractual at least, that says, oh, hang on, but I'm meeting with him every month. And the new guy says, yes, sorry, that's not going to happen. I need to get my feet under the desk in this new role here. And so just having something that's sort of, now I don't want to talk about a contract or a covenant, but something that's kind of firmly agreed from both
clear
sides.
Expectations.
Expectations, yeah. And the problem when we make assumptions is that we aren't necessarily on the same page, and we think things are agreed, and we think things are sorted, and we think there's a consensus as to what's going to happen for the future. But if personnel change, or situations change, or pressures change, then what we thought was agreed actually doesn't work out, and then suddenly things are in a mess when we're not singing from the same hymn sheet. I'm not quite sure what I was saying now. Just like go again with that. Sorry, I've lost my flow.
Sure.
I've lost my flow. The problem can be with assumptions is that when things aren't agreed or formalized, then we don't actually... I've lost it now. Let me go again. The problem can be when we assume things, then if personnel change or situations change or priorities change or pressures change, then where we thought we had it agreed that we were going to meet monthly, or we thought that the mother church was going to pray for us every 6 months or give this much money, then things don't actually come to pass. And it gets messy. Relationships get messy, and that can have implications down the line.
Yeah, it's so helpful. And guys, that's the kind of wisdom you get from the book. You also learn from the planters, and you learn from Dan as you go through Wise Church Planting. So go over to Amazon today, go pick up Wise Church Planting, buy some for their planters in your church, buy some for your core team, buy some for if you're the sending church, buy some, stock some, and maybe take your current leadership team through it. And so you can learn through church planting. If you're interested and want to become a church planting church, go pick up Wise Church Planting. Yeah, Dan.
Can I say one more thing as well? The thing that I've realized really is it's not actually a book about church planting. It's actually a book about what it means to do ministry under the sun through the lens of church planting. So what's encouraged me is a number of friends who have read it, leaders who have read it from different contexts, and said, actually, all leaders should read this, pastors should read this, because it's universal. And the things that we struggle with, whether things internal to us and character issues, whether it be things within a local church family and disunity, or trusting in the wrong things, and whether it just be opposition from the outside, they are all things that those in ministry have to wrestle with each day. And that's just the reality of Monday morning ministry, if you like. And so that's been an encouragement to me, that what I thought was a book about church planting actually turned out to be ministry under the sun. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That's a good way to wrap it up. Thank you, brother. My friend Dan, it is good to see you. Always good to hang out with you. And maybe next time you can treat me to whatever the best food is over in England. I don't know what that would be. Fish and chips? What
fish and chips is good. I mean, mostly we get mocked for having bad food, but fish and chips is good, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the best memes I've ever seen was England conquered the world for spices and then refused to use them. Putting beans on toast and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, beans on toast is really
But we
good.
love you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
We love you. We love you. Thanks, Dan. Good to see you. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you this fall here at the New Churches Podcast.
You've been listening to the New Churches Podcast, brought to you by Send Network. If you like what you heard, take a few minutes to rate and review us, or share this episode with a friend. It's the best way to show your support. To find more reliable resources to start your new church well, visit newchurches.com.